Yes, this is The Origin and Growth of the American Constitution by Taylor, a documentary history. And this is published in 1911. Okay, so this is just about 40, 50 years after Reconstruction. And of course, this book likes the 14th Amendment and Reconstruction. He says the Constitution of the United States never reached its logical completion until after the adoption of the 14th Amendment. He says a better view is that prior to the adoption of the 14th Amendment, a man was a citizen of the United States only by virtue of his citizenship in one of the states composing the Union. And any such thing as federal or national citizenship, if anything such as a federal or national citizenship then existed at all, it was nothing more than a secondary and dependent relation. So national citizenship, they're saying, didn't exist before the 14th Amendment, but turn a couple pages, and he's talking about the 14th Amendment, and he says, an able commentator on the 14th Amendment has said that it nationalized the whole sphere of civil authority. He says, the amendment therefore placed the essential rights of life, liberty, and property in the several states of the Union under the ultimate protection of the national government. The national citizenship thus created as a substantive and independent thing was placed in Section 1 under the protection of a new Magna Carta, enforceable by the federal courts. Okay? This is 1911. Okay, they're talking about this new national citizenship that came after the 14th Amendment, or along with the 14th Amendment. But what did our founding fathers say about national citizenship? Where did our citizenship reside? Let's go to the Bettles Paper. Bettles number 39. Says the idea of a national government involves in it not only an authority over the individual citizens, but an indefinite supremacy over all persons and things so far as they are objects of lawful government. Among a people consolidated into one nation, this supremacy is completely vested in the national legislature. And he goes on and says, in this relation, then, the proposed government cannot be deemed a national one, since its jurisdiction extends to certain enumerated objects only. But what we're seeing here is, if we did have national government, or national citizenship, how much power would the federal government have over the individual citizen? If you nationalize citizenship, they would have an indefinite supremacy over all persons and things. This is what our founding fathers said would happen if it evolved into that. How many people have read The Object of the War? I think if anybody's ever listened to me, this is one of my standard things. The Object of the War, which was proposed by Andrew Johnson, senator from Tennessee, that this war is not prosecuted upon our part in any spirit of oppression, nor for any purpose of conquest, remember that, no purpose of conquest, or subjugation, nor for the purposes of overthrowing or interfering with the rights of or established institutions of the states, but to defend and maintain the supremacy of the Constitution and all laws made pursuant thereof, and to preserve the Union with all the dignity, equality, and rights of the several states unimpaired. The object of the war was not for conquest, subjugation, purposes of overthrowing, interfering with the rights of those states, or to overthrow or interfere with the established institutions of those states, slavery. Why could Lincoln say it was not for the purpose of overthrowing or interfering with slavery? 5 slave states stayed in the Union. It wasn't the slave states against the free states. Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware were Union states and slave states. West Virginia, which came into the Union in 1863, came in as a slave state. So, December of 1865, the 11 previous Confederate states are considered back in the Union to the degree that they participate in amending the national Constitution abolishing slavery. Were these states considered member states of the Union in December of 1865? The answer is yes, because they participated in the amending of the Constitution. Congress recognized their authority and ability to do that in 1865. Peace is declared by presidential proclamation April 2nd, 1866. The 14th Amendment is proposed by the 39th Congress on June 13, 1866, and is rejected by all southern states except Tennessee. On March 2, 1867, the first Reconstruction Act is passed by Congress in times of peace over the President's veto, declaring that no legal governments exist in any of the former Confederate states except Tennessee, because Tennessee had ratified the 14th Amendment. The sole purpose and object of the Reconstruction Acts was to pass the 14th Amendment. And I'm here to tell you the 14th Amendment was designed to nationalize citizenship. Basically what the Reconstruction Acts did was they wanted to pass the 14th Amendment. They didn't have enough northern states that would go for it. And again, the 14th Amendment I'm going to show you is to nationalize citizenship. They didn't have enough northern states to go for it. They couldn't get it. They needed all of the southern states in order to pass the 14th Amendment. Tennessee had adopted the 14th Amendment, so they had to get the other 10. So what Congress did was they annulled the states. They created new body politics. They said anyone that had participated in the war, you're not allowed to vote. You're disfranchised. Now, what we call that in law, it says that in the Constitution, there's a word called a bill of attainder. You cannot have a bill of attainder. A bill of attainder is to declare a certain group of people, a definable group of people, guilty of a crime and punish them without a right to trial. We're annulling you, North Carolina. Anyone who participated in the war, you can't vote. All blacks go. Now, a lot of people say that the 14th Amendment was designed to give blacks civil rights because of the black codes that were being imposed down there. And I'm going to tell you that the Reconstruction Acts are actually the largest black code ever passed. Why? Were there blacks in the northern states? Absolutely. What did the 14th Amendment do? In the Civil Rights Act, well, the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment said that you only have black suffrage in these 10 states. Blacks do not vote in Tennessee. Blacks still cannot vote in New York, Ohio. Blacks could not vote in any of the northern states. And if you go back to the literature time, you'll start seeing they say, well, if we allow blacks to vote in the South, all the ones here will migrate southward. Again, it was designed to rid their state, to give enticement for these states, for the blacks in the northern states to go southward. They did not have a right to vote. That did not come until the 15th Amendment in 1870, 2 years later. Andrew Johnson vetoed the Reconstruction Acts, and he said this: another ground on which these Reconstruction Acts are attempted to be sustained is this, that these 10 states are conquered territory. What was the object of the war not for? Conquest. Well, 2 years after the war was over, Congress decided to change the object of the war. Well, we think it was for conquest. They said it on the House floor and the Senate floor. Now, these 10 states are conquered territory, and the constitutional relation in which they stood as states toward the federal government prior to the rebellion has given place to a new relation, that their territory is a conquered country and their citizens a conquered people, and that in this new relation, Congress can govern them by military power. A title of conquest stands on clear ground. It's a new title acquired by war. This is a transfer of title of the state of North Carolina from the freemen of North Carolina to United States citizens residing here. It's a new title, conquest. They got it by the federal government conquering states. This is what Andrew Johnson said. There's not a foot of the land in any one of these 10 states which the United States holds by conquest. How would he know? He's the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Congress had a resolution that said the object of war is not for any purpose of conquest. Did he have any authority to use the U.S. military to conquer states? No. He'd be violating the object of the war at the very beginning. It's not for any purpose of conquest. The U.S. military did not conquer these states. The Reconstruction Acts did. The Reconstruction Acts are a new war on the states. Because the issue was the 14th Amendment and Reconstruction Acts designed for the freed slaves, or were they designed to nationalize citizenship? That's what we've got to try to decide. Well, let's go to the writings of the people who were involved. James G. Blaine, he was one of the representatives in Congress. This is his book, Discussions, where he has all of his political speeches. He says, and in making this extension of citizenship, we are not confining the breadth and scope of our efforts to the Negro. It is for the white man as well. We intend to make citizenship national. Okay? He also said this in his books, in his autobiography. He says, as the vicious theory of state rights had been constantly at enmity with the true spirit of nationality, the organic law of the Republic, which is the Constitution, should be so amended that no standing room for the heresy would be left. It was to get rid of state rights. Again, if you get rid of state citizenship, make everyone a citizen of Congress, there are no independent states. They're all composed of United States citizens rather than North Carolinians, South Carolinians, Virginians. He also said the first section of the constitutional amendment, the 14, which includes these invaluable provisions, is in fact a new charter of liberty to the citizens of the United States, is the utter destruction of the pestilent heresy of states' rights, which constantly menace the prosperity and even the existence of the Republic, and is the formal bestowment of nationality upon the wise federal system. Did our founding fathers intend for us to have national citizenship? No. Were the radical Republicans intending for us to have national citizenship? Yes. Since 1867, there's been no further test of the constitutionality of these acts which nationalize citizenship. It is my firm belief we have legal remedy if we have people willing to stand on what is true and just. We have two directions we can go in. We can say, this is water under the bridge. Nothing we can do about it. So therefore, here we are. We've just got to do the best we can in this situation. But the problem with that is we're always looking at the original intent of the Constitution, saying we've got those rights when they're really overthrown by this legislation. I say the remedy lies in, and I think Andrew Johnson actually said it pretty good. In his veto of the Reconstruction Acts, he said, the remedy must come from the people themselves. They know what it is and how it is to be applied, with abiding confidence in their patriotism, wisdom, and integrity. I'm still hopeful of the future, and that in the end, the rod of despotism will be broken and the arm heel of power lifted from the necks of the people and the principles of a violated Constitution preserved. Hear, hear. This is Andrew Johnson in his veto of the Reconstruction Acts. This is the Democratic Party platform, state of Ohio. I've got them from Connecticut. The highlighted ones are ones I would normally read. I've got them from Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, all northern states. I only picked northern states. You know what the southern states had to say about it. These are the northern state conventions saying this is unconstitutional, despotic, an overthrow of the Constitution, a revolutionary. The reason we don't have lawful government is no one's participating in it. Everyone wants to get remedy in the usurpation. We have a right to pick up the Constitution that the Reconstruction Act said was null and void. It was never changed by the consent of the people of North Carolina. We have a right to repopulate it, reestablish it, and then stand in defense of it, even if we're a minority. There's people who say we don't have a majority. American Revolution didn't have a majority, 3% of the American people. I say that we can do this with 1/2 of 1%. If we can get a tireless minority intent on setting brush fires in the minds of people to get this country back with the truth of what happened, we can get it back.